Hello, everyone. My name is Jackie Ravella, and I'm at Gateway Church. We are here today with one of our congregational members, Ken, and I'm really excited to talk with him today a little bit about his story. So, Ken, thank you for being here.
Well, glad to be here.
Good. All right. So, you know what? I have known you for some time in church, but I've never really had a conversation with you before about a little bit more about yourself. So if you don't mind, we'll go ahead and dive right in. I understand that you are from Idaho.
That's right.
Boise, Idaho, and you grew up there. And how many brothers and sisters do you have?
I have one brother and three sisters,
Three
actually.
sisters. Mm-hmm. Oh, my goodness. So there's a little bit of a journey going from Idaho to the Tri-Cities. And let's start there. When we previously talked before this interview, you mentioned that you were raised Catholic.
That's right. Went all through Catholic schools except for 2 years in public school.
Right. And at one point, you considered being a priest.
That's right.
Now, tell me how you came to that conclusion that you, for about a split second, you wanted to be a priest.
Oh, I don't think it was just a split second.
Oh, okay. A little bit more than that.
It was something
All right.
I was pretty interested in.
Okay. Tell us about that.
Was what they call Maryknoll priests, who are missionaries.
Mm-hmm.
And I just was really taken by what they did on the mission field. And then there was one in particular. Oh, I'm having a senior moment now. Damien.
Uh-huh.
Damien the leper. Father Damien founded a leper colony in Hawaii.
Yes.
And to this day, it's still there. It's very famous. But he
Mm-hmm.
started that back, over 100 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
I guess, and lived among the lepers, and eventually died from leprosy. But he stayed there to minister to them. So.
And that had a little bit of an impact in your life in terms of what you wanted to do. And so what changed to make you not want to be a priest?
I guess girls came along.
Okay.
I got over my shyness, I guess.
All right.
My mom signed me up for dancing lessons
She
when
did?
I was, 15, 16, ballroom dancing.
Mm-hmm.
And I took to that really well, and then was comfortable going to dances, and
You got your confidence up, and
it was a real confidence builder.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's kind of an interesting take a side note here. I just found out that you were a drummer in a rock band, and music is something that you've loved for a very, very long time. So I've got to pick your brain about the drummer side. So when did this start where you liked playing drums? And when was your first, your gig that you had? Do you remember that?
Well, first off, I've always loved music, and I was in the glee club in high school, and we sang a lot of 4-part harmony, and I loved singing, and then I sang in the choir and different things. Did a lot of singing over all the years. But I took up an interest in drums. I took some drum lessons when I was in high school, and my very first group that I played with was an old-time band. We played at the Oddfellows Hall on Friday nights for these people were 60 and over. And we had a lady that played the piano that, did this old-fashioned like this, and a lady that played the guitar, and a guy that played the alto and tenor sax, and it was me on the drums. And it was fun. It was fun. I enjoyed the music, and I enjoyed watching the people dancing. One of the most amazing things that happened there was an elderly gentleman. It was all old people, 60 and older at the Oddfellows Hall. And this one guy was deaf. And he would get out on that dance floor, and he never missed a beat. He could feel the beat. He can feel the
goodness.
rhythm, and he could get out there and dance. And
That's incredible.
yeah. So it wasn't rock and roll. It was just old time
Right.
waltzes and foxtrots and, you know, that type of
So
thing.
how long were you in a band? You switched bands, but how long were you playing drums?
Well, I did that. I ended up in a country western band that I was playing in for a while. And then when my wife and I married, I didn't play anymore until we moved up here. And a number of years later, I got into a group.
Good. So getting back to so your upbringing in Idaho, Catholic-based, and then what brought you to the Tri-Cities?
Well, when my wife and I got married, I was being trained. I had worked for my father since I was 16 in the drapery business. And my dad had a store in Boise. And he later sold that, and I started my own business installing draperies, and I was going around to different stores in Boise just picking up drapes and installing them in people's houses. I had gone to college for a little while, but I kind of blew that off. I ended up flunking out. But then I got hired by Sears, was one of my stores that I installed drapes for. So I got hired by Sears to be trained to be the department manager for the drapery and upholstery and department in the Sears. And my wife and I were engaged to be married at that point. And my dad came down to our wedding, and so he said, I have this store in Pasco, Washington, and it's not making it, and I'm thinking of closing it, but if you want to come up and take it over, and we'll give it a shot. So after my wife and I married, we moved up here and took over the store in Pasco, which was very small.
So did you then resume going to a Catholic church?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I was very involved in the Catholic Church.
And you mentioned to me that there was a movement within the Catholic Church that changed some things for you in a really positive way, where you got it. So tell me about that movement. What was the name of the movement?
Well, it's called the Charismatic movement.
Charismatic movement.
And that I was singing in the choir at that time. I was also down in the front doing readings for Mass and stuff. But the lady who was our choir director got involved in this Life in the Spirit charismatic movement. And so she invited me to come to these prayer meetings that they were having at the Catholic Church. And so I started going to those, and it was like nothing I'd ever experienced before, what was going on there. And I was just so blessed by the worship and the teaching and the fellowship, and that kind of almost became my part of the church. That's I stayed with that.
And so from there, your wife was selling Tupperware, and she met someone, and that sort of started changing things, shifting things for you a little bit, which brought you from the Catholic Church to Foursquare. How did that happen?
Well, my wife used to put on Tupperware parties, and so she had been doing Tupperware parties for this lady who was the pastor's wife of the Foursquare Church in Pasco. And she called my wife up one day and said, I'm thinking of starting a ladies' Bible study, and the Lord put you on my mind. And so she called to see if she wanted to come join this ladies' Bible study. So she started going to this ladies' Bible study. And so then my wife tells me, well, the pastor is having a Wednesday night Bible study in their house, and would you like to come? And so I jokingly said, well, I'll come and check out what kind of error they're teaching you. And so I started going to that on Wednesday nights. And it was so much like what was going on with the Charismatic movement, with the prayer meeting and everything, that I decided that the Lord wanted us in this church. So I, at that point, left the Catholic Church and joined the Foursquare.
That was like a long period of your life in the Catholic Church. You'd have to shift over. So what you were saying is that, you know, there was some similarities that made it a little more smoother transition because of the Charismatic movement, and you're saying that you saw some of that within the Foursquare Church. Now, was this you've been a part of this church, this particular church, Gateway, for how many years?
Since about 76.
76, okay. So you were at the Pasco Foursquare, and then tell me how you ended up over at Gateway, because there was some name changes within the church. So how did you end up over here at the actual Gateway? Because you were here when we had our original pastor. Was it Pastor Tom?
It was even before that.
Before that, okay.
Yeah, our original pastor was named Frank Stronach, and
Okay.
we were meeting in Pasco at the Oddfellows Hall.
And then he
And
came
then
over here, right.
Pastor Tom came in 1980, and the other pastor resigned, and Pastor Tom came in 1980. And then we met there at the Oddfellows Hall till 84, and then we bought this building and moved here in 84.
Right, and so what was the name of the church before? It was called Gateway.
It was called Pasco Bible Church.
Pasco Bible
and then
Church.
when Pastor Tom came, it was changed it to the Tri-City Foursquare.
Right. So we're now currently here at the Kennewick location, and you're one of the originals, you know, that has been with us for so long. How do you like things now with the church? Because we have something different, you know, that not a lot of people have, and that is the round tables, where it encourages conversations with people. So what do you like about Gateway right now?
Well, of course, I love the people, even though we've got a lot of new people. We've still got some of the old timers, but it's almost like family.
Yes, it does feel that way.
And when we changed to the tables, it was amazing to me. I learned things about people I never would have learned sitting in a row, sitting in a pew, and drew a lot closer to all of them. And
Yeah.
it's I don't think I would want to go back to the way it was before. I really don't.
You get different perspectives, especially during the time when Pastor Mel will say, take 5 minutes at your table and discuss something. So then you allow people, you know, to really engage and have conversation over that question he's asking. And so I found that extremely, extremely valuable. So
It's kind of an icebreaker.
it is an icebreaker. It
Even
is.
for somebody that's never been here before. Yeah, I think they feel much more comfortable.
Good. Well, I have really enjoyed talking with you a little bit about yourself, and I didn't, especially the part where you were a drummer. I think that's fantastic. And then, of course, you know, your transition from, I really like the part about the Charismatic movement that you were saying, that it really kind of opened your eyes and it touched your heart in a way that maybe it hadn't before. And that's something that's kind of still with you. And now I understand that you led a Bible study here, and so that's pretty cool. Had you ever done that before?
Well, I did for about 15 years. I went to Hawthorne Court and did a Sunday night hymn sing, and I want to call it a devotional.
Right.
With the elderly. I've always had a heart for the seniors, and that was really a blessing for me. So I've often said I learned a little bit about what a pastor learns.
Yes.
Pastor goes through
Yes.
every Sunday having to have a message, having something of value to give to the people, you know.
And how did you enjoy doing it here that last Sunday?
I did. I enjoyed it. I was much more comfortable than I thought I would be.
Right.
But yeah, it was good.
Yeah, it's one of kind of the advantages of not having a huge, humongous church is that it's really kind of close-knit. And, again, you just feel really comfortable around everybody and can open up for more conversations and interaction. So thank you for being here. This has been fantastic. Thank you so much. And again, we will see you next time for another episode of interviewing one of our great congregational members here at Gateway Church. You take care. Bye-bye.